Welcome to the Great Basin Fire Potential Briefing for Thursday, September 22nd. This is Gina McGuire. Over the next couple of days, we will continue to see cooler temperatures and widespread wetting rains, especially over the eastern half of the Great Basin. And these areas across Idaho into northeast Nevada and northern Utah have already seen significant rains and will continue to see wetting rains, and this will be a possible season-ending event for this part of the Great Basin. Further south, wetting rains will also be significant and have been already over the rest of Utah into eastern Nevada. Still today, we will see gusty winds along with low relative humidity over southern Nevada. However, there was some moisture in place yesterday, so some of these fuels have moderated a little bit in the far south. Again, much cooler temperatures, with temperatures dropping to 10 to 20 degrees below normal, will occur over the next 2 days. Looking at the precipitation over the last 24 hours, we are seeing showers continue this morning, and we have seen significant amounts of precipitation over the eastern half of the Great Basin. Many areas over the Arizona Strip into southern Utah have seen over 3/4 or even over an inch of precipitation, and we've seen these heavier amounts even near an inch or higher over parts of eastern Nevada as well. Up into Idaho, many areas, even into northern Utah, have seen over a ½ inch of precipitation. Again, there's been significant lightning with this shower activity, but with the moisture in place, higher humidity and wetting rains, these are not causing major fire concerns. Over the last 24 hours, we've seen light initial attack across the Great Basin, with only a few small fires reported. Now looking at the last 7 to 30 days, this does not include the precipitation that we've seen in the last 24 hours, so the map on the left showing the last 7 days, again minus yesterday, shows where our precipitation was mainly focused in the north and then in the far south, with drier conditions elsewhere. Over the last 30 days, the map on the right shows the percent of normal precipitation, and much of what we've seen has been below normal, with the exception of parts of southern and central Idaho, into northern Nevada, and into parts of the far south. How this has translated into our current fuel conditions, with the cooler and wet weather that has already moved in, fuel conditions have moderated significantly in many areas, and ERCs have dropped, generally below the 50th percentile, with still some areas remaining in the 50th to 70th percentile. However, with continued moisture and cool temperatures today and tomorrow, these ERCs will continue to decline. The only area that will remain on the drier side will be the far northwest and western side of Nevada, which may only see some light shower activity today, but the significant wetting rains will remain well to the east. The water vapor satellite loop from this morning shows this deep trough of low pressure now over the west coast, and this will continue moving eastward, pushing much colder temperatures and moisture through the Great Basin over the next couple of days. Also associated with this low, we'll still see windy conditions in most areas, at least today and in some areas tomorrow. Now looking at the weather pattern by this afternoon, this trough of low pressure moves a little bit further eastward, and we have plenty of moisture in place really across all areas of the Great Basin, with the exception of far southern Nevada. So most of the wetting rains will be over the eastern 2/3 of the area, with only lighter showers across the west. Still, those gusty winds and dry conditions will continue in the south. However, generally low to moderate fire potential over parts of southern Nevada, with low fire potential really elsewhere. Now looking at the current conditions expected today, minimum relative humidity again will remain in the single digits to low teens in the far south, but will be much higher everywhere else across the Great Basin. You can see by the wind image on the right, we will have gusty winds or strong winds really in all areas of the Great Basin, but the main area of significance would be in the drier areas in the far south, where we could easily see wind gusts above 45 miles per hour. Also today, the best chances for wetting rains will be in this area of darker green, generally over the eastern half of the Great Basin, and again these will be significant and widespread. Further south and east we'll see much lighter amounts of rainfall with continued thunderstorm activity. By Friday, this area of low pressure tracks well to the east over Wyoming. We will still have moisture in place over the eastern half of the Great Basin, with still significant wetting rains, especially for northern Utah and areas further north. Further west, high pressure already starts to build in off the west coast, with drier conditions and slightly warmer temperatures on the western side of the basin by Friday, with still generally low fire potential. Looking at the relative humidity on Friday, you can see how things are already drying out over western and southern Nevada, but still remaining very moist in areas further east. Also, as this low pressure and cold front move eastward, we'll see winds shift to the northwest behind the front and still remain quite strong over the eastern half of Nevada, up into Idaho and parts of Utah. Also, the better chances of wetting rains on Friday do move a little bit further north and east, mainly to eastern Idaho, Utah, and into Wyoming. By Saturday, This low is now well off to the east, and strong high pressure builds in off the west coast and pushes eastward, allowing temperatures to start increasing a little bit further in the west, along with drier conditions. And you can see how we are starting to see a little bit more yellow on our fire potential map into parts of southern and western Nevada that have again remained on the drier side. Looking at our relative humidity on Saturday, generally dry conditions across western Nevada and still higher humidity further east with cooler temperatures. And we also will continue to see some breezy winds on Saturday over the eastern half of the Great Basin, but again this will be weaker than what we will see the next couple of days and accompanied by higher humidity. Looking at the overall forecast amount of precipitation over the next few days, and you can see where these significant wetting rains will occur over much of the eastern half of the Great Basin. Also, with these much cooler temperatures, we will see potentially significant snowfall in the higher elevations, especially across, again, areas of Utah, Idaho, and into Wyoming. As you can see, areas further west will see very little, if any, shower activity, and only light amounts are expected. As we go into later this weekend, into next week, you can see how this very strong ridge of high pressure dominates and will continue moving eastward, and this will allow for warming temperatures and drier conditions after this period of cool, wet weather. As we go into early next week, temperatures will be increasing to above normal again as the ridge builds in, and we can see some areas now changing to brown in our fire potential map over parts of southern and western Nevada. Again, these are in areas that will likely receive very little precipitation over the coming days. As we go into Tuesday and Wednesday, this ridge starts to move eastward and flattens out a little bit towards midweek. We will continue to see dry conditions through the middle of the week. However, another trough of low pressure may approach from mid to late week, bringing a return of gusty winds and possibly some moisture. Also, there's another tropical feature off the Baja Peninsula, which may push more moisture into the Great Basin later next week. So generally low fire potential with the exception of some areas of moderate on the western and southern fringes of the Great Basin. This is the 7-day total for precipitation accumulation, and really is what we'll see in the next 3 days is what is occurring here in the 7-day picture, as past Saturday dry conditions are expected. As we move into the first week in October, we're expecting generally dry conditions over the western half of the Great Basin with some cooler temperatures up in the north as we see some drier cold fronts move in and possibly some moisture over eastern areas. That concludes our briefing for today. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us. Thank you for listening.